There we go. Okay. So who has a question? Oh, you have a question. And I just took your microphone. Well, let me go right up here.
Thank you. Okay, there's a lot here, but the one thing that stands out is that the problems that we are having are related to the solvency issue. What will the province accept to make this problem go away?
Yeah. It's not perfectly clear. Our best guess is, though, I guess, is that what the province is looking for is for universities, all into universities that have hybrid or defined benefit plans to convert to a joint sponsorship benefit plan. I'm missing a word in there. A plan that is more like OMERS or Teachers Fund, where the risk is actually jointly shared, contributions and risk are jointly shared between the employee and the employer.
Okay, and just one more question, then I'll...
Yeah.
So what does the Council of Ontario Universities think about this idea? Are they in support of it?
We were just at a meeting on Monday, and the Council of Ontario Universities had a committee on pensions. Duncan was a member of it. They worked really hard to find a solution that we wanted as universities that would respect all our different bargaining groups, our individual pension plans, which are different from university to university. They came up with something that they thought the government was going to accept. I was very optimistic and hopeful. And Monday when we got to the meeting, really, you know, when you say read the writing on the wall, the letters I saw were N-O. And we asked and asked, and they're not going to take that. So the door has not been closed. They've asked to speak with each university individually and see what we are willing to do to come up to what they want. So the COU is not happy. I'm supposed to drive to Kingston this afternoon to meet with the other members of the COU to see if we can come up with a joint answer, but it looks to me like the answer is going to be that we have to comply with what the government wants or find a way to pay for what we want to do.
So, in other words, COU hasn't actually gone to the stakeholders at each university to discuss this. They've just decided they did not want to accept the OMERS model?
No, that's not true. It's Monday was the first time we heard that this is what the government was looking for. So what each university that has a pension plan issue like ourselves is interested in is finding a way to stop making solvency payments, right? So, and each university is going to need to decide, you know, one, do you want to? But then also the reality is our pension plans are enshrined in our collective agreements. So we would have to negotiate those changes within our collective agreements as well. And so it's a process that's going to play out over the next probably year. It's not something that's going to happen in a few days, right? Yeah.
I should add that support staff, which is just one, are part of the Confederation of Ontario University Support Staff Associations, which is a body that represents all support staff on university campuses on Ontario, and would be a good starting point to talk.
Okay.
I guess my question stems from the email that was put out a couple weeks ago to the university community about the cancellation of student-run orientation week and the university's decision to take that on. I guess during this time of financial uncertainty, how can the university decide that this is a good idea for the university to take this on? I guess I'm thinking 2 and 2 adds up that the university is now going to be paying for this orientation week, and whereas before both CUSA and RA were paying for it themselves.
The students who want to participate in orientation pay a fee of approximately $85, and that fee covers the cost of orientation, and that will be what the university uses to fund the orientation program. Let me just say for a moment about the orientation program, and I would like to say to you all that I am really disappointed in the reaction that we've had to this situation. The university, the administration, does not act willy-nilly. We don't take over things because we want to do things. We do things because we are responsible, and when things need to be improved, the university has the responsibility to do that. The university has observed that there are 32 norms that orientation programs are supposed to reach. There's a professional organization that says that. Our orientation does not meet those 32 norms. We have learned in recent times that very inappropriate behavior occurred. The university cannot stand by and allow that to continue. The university administration has said to the students, we will run the orientation, we want to work with you, we will involve you, you will be part of it, you can still think of fun activities, but in the end, we're responsible. We're responsible for what happens to those young people coming to campus. And when we understand that something is not appropriate, we cannot stand by and let it continue. I am really disappointed that students have attempted to disrupt meetings and yell and cheer and do all these things, which I suppose are fun things to do, expressions of your opinion, but I would hope that it would be done in a respectful fashion and that we would all work together to make this better. And there is no amount of questioning that you can do, and no amount of bullying, no amount of rallying and screaming at the administration that will change the decision. So let's just work together and do it right. We can do something that will make us all proud. And I realize that most of the students really want to do that. So please accept that. Next question.
Well, my question's coming from an older faculty member who's also professor of
That was
economics.
not you, right?
You can't hear?
Somebody you know.
I'm an older faculty
No,
member.
you said it's coming from an older faculty member. It
And-
couldn't be you. It must be somebody else.
Well, okay. Older at the university anyway, and also professor of economics. When I hear that the university wants to somehow avoid the solvency, dealing with the solvency in the short term, I get somewhat nervous. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't give my own assent to that, but we certainly don't have enough information yet to make such a decision. We're going to have a lot more information and a long discussion within the faculty about this. So just to begin that, so I would just ask that you give us as much information as you can, and as many scenarios as you run, as many scenarios that you think are reasonable, and let us have them as well, so we can discuss this in a full manner. It's quite a difficult issue, and it can be quite complicated, obviously, even for professors of economics.
Well, I really and fully appreciate that. We're all members of the pension
Right.
plan, and we only got information on Monday, which was oral, nothing written.
Right.
We are going back to meet with the Ministry of Council, Ministry of Colleges and Universities in about 2 weeks. This afternoon, I meet with the COU on the same topic. As we get more information, we're going to make that shared with everybody. And this, whatever we do, we're all going to do together. It's something that we'll all have to decide, and you can only make a good decision if you have a lot of information.
Right.
So I assure you that Duncan staff and Duncan will make more charts and graphs than we ever saw before.
Well, I mean, we also want the more basic documents having to do with valuation of the fund and,
Yeah.
and detailed scenarios.
Okay.
Just one comment and one question. There are great uncertainties with respect to the position of the provincial government. They have a huge deficit, which I think they probably haven't started really to deal with yet. And in the current circumstance, it's probably a good thing that they're doing what they're doing. But a $20 billion deficit cannot go on for too long. We don't know what the economy is going to be like in 5 years or 10 years. So prudence is not a bad attitude to take in such an environment. Prudence means, of course, dealing with this problem sooner rather than later. The question is about the figures you put up. What it seemed to say is that the condition of bankruptcy tomorrow, as opposed to solvency, was $7 million. That doesn't sound right to me.
7 million?
Well, we're 62 versus 69. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, they're not, they're two separate calculations that are done, Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, it would be nice to know. I didn't think it was right. I mean, it couldn't be right the way I was interpreting it. Anyway,
Right.
It would be nice to know, useful to know, what the implications of each condition would be if the university made it up over 5 years, over 10 years, and so on. That kind of information would be very useful.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would just say, and just to add to Roseanne's comment, it's the pension committee will be doing lots of education for the community before they ask the question in the fall. Yeah.
Hi there. I had a question related to TA bargaining and as well as contract instructor bargaining that will be coming up next year. Where in your assumptions are those negotiations accounted for? What kind of numbers have you projected for those two particular portfolios? As well, for graduate students, there was talk of doing clawbacks to those who win external awards of their internal awards, which was set aside for this year. What kind of assumptions have you placed into your current budget to figure in for future clawbacks if they are to occur?
Okay. So we're the bargaining units that will be the university will be negotiating with in the next few months are the Faculty Association, QP 2424, QP 4600 1 and 2, that's the TAs and sessionals, and QP 910, the maintenance workers. Our assumption in all of these and what's in our model is that we'll comply with the Wage Restraint Act, that there will be a 0% scale increase. But if there is progress through the ranks and the people are eligible, then they will receive that. There's no assumption in our model. So in your second question about clawbacks for graduate students, there's nothing in our model about anything that would be different than what's happened in the last 2 years going forward, that it'll just continue, past practice will continue.
Okay, and one last question. In terms of the total budget that you've put out today and the pension shortfall, is it to say that it's all because of the economic downturn, I think obscures just as much as it reveals? Are there other factors that have contributed to the pension shortfall? And that's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah. Carleton's pension plan was started in 1973, and it's actually performed very well until right now. And I think there are two things that have caused the pension plan situation. First is there's been two stock market crashes in the 2000s. The first one, the high-tech crash in 2001-2, and then the second one in the fall of 2008. So that's contributed to the going concern evaluation. Is there enough money in the plan? The second one is that long-term interest rates are at an all-time low, right? They're at well, they're just at an all-time historic low. And when you do your solvency calculation, you assume, you know, you wind up your pension plan, you take all that money, you put it in a guaranteed investment instrument. And so when you have low interest rates, you need to have a big pot of money to honor the pension commitment. So we have these two things. We've had 2 stock market crashes within 8 years, which is unprecedented, and we have long-term interest rates at an all-time low, and it's just caused it not to work. And it's, to read the newspaper, it's happening with a lot of pension plans, right? Most, actually, I think, yeah. But, yeah.
Should we go to this side?
This year, you've described that ELBA has worked to the benefit of the teaching faculties. And I would argue that the teaching faculties along with the Faculty of Graduate Studies should be prioritized anyway. So what would you do in the absence of enrollment increases in terms of prioritization?
Wait a minute, that's a sort of an interesting question. If there are no enrollment increases, then we don't have additional money to distribute. We are in the negative situation.
That's correct.
And
so how do you prioritize your budget cuts in that scenario?
right. Well, we would all sit down together and we would say, what is it that we're doing here? What is really important at this institution? And that's what we did this year when we did the budget. And we said that what was really important were teaching and research. And those were the 2 items that were most important for the university. And we attempted to protect those areas most in the budget. Other things we said are not as central. So those are our core activities. ELBA is a way of giving the money in a differential fashion to the faculties rather than doing it on a across the board. But obviously, we would maintain those priorities.
Okay, because ELBA truly is only a way of reallocating.
Exactly, exactly.
Hi, I just want to follow up on the ELBA question, and then I have a quick comment. How does ELBA take into account the importance of retention? So particularly for faculties that already are full to the brim with undergraduate students, one of the pressures is to keep those students when we're teaching in classes that are this big. So if I have 350 students in this class, it's pretty easy to lose 10% of them without ever actually seeing them. So how does ELBA is oriented towards growth. How does it kind of adjust for faculties that do improve their retention rates? And how does it adjust for those faculties or departments that are already filled to the brim with students and don't have room to grow with their current complement of faculty? Because those are the faculties that are the current engine of growth. And if they're unable to maintain that growth or maintain that standard of the number of students they have, the engine, you know, you can grow as much as you want, but you're going to lose the students you already have. So I'm interested in how do we deal with those already full faculties or the ones that are actually increasing their retention.
Okay, so well, the ELBA model does account for improved retention. So it's having a new student or retaining a student is actually equal in the ELBA model. So there is a financial compensation for improving retention as well as new students. Your second challenge is probably if all 5 of the teaching deans were up here, they would all say that they're at capacity. But that's why we pay them the big bucks to figure this out. But
my just general comment is that, you know, you started, Madam President, with a plea for us all to work together. We're entering into collective bargaining with almost all of the groups on campus, the groups that are responsible for retaining those students that drive the engine, the economic engine. So the administration's position is going to be 0 salary increases outside of the progress through the ranks. If you want your faculty and your staff and your TAs to engage with the administration in that process of trying to make us fiscally sound, I hope that the administration too is also going to recognize that it's been a tough year for relationships between the administration and the different unions from our perspective in some instances, and that when we're at the bargaining table, that spirit of working together is one that is not just expectation of the faculty and the staff, you know, coming to the table with that spirit, but also that the administration brings that spirit as well, and kind of recognize that the staff and the faculty are giving up something by if they're not pressing for increased salaries or limited salaries, that we kind of all work together at that stage as well.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, and that is my sincere hope. And probably most of you don't know that last year I said to the board, I don't want a salary increase because it was a tough time. And I gave $30,000 of my salary back to the university for student support and for the library. So there is, on this part of the administration, a true commitment to helping this university move ahead and a belief in the students. And so please know that we're all there together. And it's not easy. Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to ask this question. On one of the early graphs on the slideshow presentation, you had a pie chart sort of looking at different revenue sources, and it struck me that this is actually kind of a historic year, because this is the first time, I believe, in Carleton's history where the revenue from tuition fees is actually higher than government grants, which I believe is a first. And I'm just wondering, is this something that the administration expects to continue? What sort of steps would be taken to sort of challenge that? And does this affect our identity as a public institution?
My goodness, I did not delve back in the history, so I assume you're correct, and thank you for doing a little bit of history. About the future, Duncan, you want to say something? I am sure that our intention is not to ask students to bear a bigger portion of the burden. We would like to seek as much external funds as we can from the government, and I can guarantee you that our fundraisers, and we have people here in the room, I see a couple of them, who have been working day and night to bring additional revenues to the university. We have a big, ambitious campaign that will bring scholarships, bursaries, fellowships, internships, professorships, and new space to everyone. And let's hope that we are really successful, because if we can be successful, then we can reduce the burden on the students. So I appreciate that. It's never our intention to make our students pay more than they absolutely need to, but it is also our intention to provide a really top quality education and make sure that our faculty and TAs are well treated. And staff, thank you. Duncan, you want to add to that?
Well, it's, I think Phil knows this, but it's actually government policy you're talking about. There's been a profound change in Ontario in the last 25 years. 25 years ago, the students were paying something like 20% of the cost of education. And as you can see from these numbers here, it's getting up, in our case, to be about 50% of the cost of education. It's really government policy, not university policy, that drives this. You know, as I was saying in the presentation, it's the government that decides is what the tuition fee structure is and what the grant structure is, right? So.
Right. But the only way that I can see that we can, get out of this is A, encourage the government to support universities more, and B, raise money in our endowment so that we have enough endowment that even if the tuition increases, scholarships and fellowships are available for our students to cover that.
And can I just ask, what sort of steps is the senior administration taking to push the government for more funding?
Well, we, on every opportunity we have, we write to them, we talk to them, we explain the situation, we bring pie charts to, and actually, our next thing is actually our Dean of Public Affairs is bringing half of his faculty, or a good number of his faculty members, to Queen's Park to show them why they should invest in education. by showing them the wonderful things that we do at Carleton. John, would you like to say something about your day at Queen's Park?
How embarrassing. Thank you so much. One of the couple of initiatives that I started in public affairs this year is to do a bit more outreach and show our strengths to decision makers, policy makers, lawmakers. We had one small initiative a week ago where we took a group of faculty members and had a number of panels downtown where we invited a broad spectrum of people. Unfortunately, we didn't have the attendance we wanted, but in fact it was a magnificent example of how we can move forward. We had planned to do the same thing at Queen's Park with the help of our local MPP. It just turns out that the room that we had identified was taken at the last minute by the government, because we had a room on Queen's Park, and the timing was such that we couldn't do that. We will do this actually on September 28th. You're all welcome. And we will be running a few what I call panels of items of interest to the government for which we have support in the faculty. The support I've received already from members of Parliament has been quite good. Our MPP, Bob Shirelli, the Speaker of the House, are all in support of this concept, so that it's a case of being seen and boasting, and then maybe the importance of higher education more and more shall be observed. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I didn't mean to call you out, but any other dean that wants to leap to his or her feet, please go right ahead. This is a constant thing. Last night I was out and met with about 5 members of Parliament. So each day, each night, we're meeting with them. We're telling them the wonderful things that happen here, why it is important to invest in the future in Carleton in education. And the provost said that he would like to leap to his feet and say something about class sizes. So here you go.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment in response to Vince's point earlier about large classes and support. So one of the other areas that we try to protect in the budget is around the package of support services that have been provided through, in a variety of ways, but mainly through student services, to help faculty and to help TAs deal with larger classes, and also to identify areas where there are problems, so moving into areas where there are high attrition rates or high DFW rates, and going in to provide support. So things like the PASS program, for example, the Science Success program, the TA training and mentoring program, programs through student services, but also through the Educational Development Center to help faculty deal with pedagogical ways of working with large classes, increasing support for the use of technology to help deal with that. So those areas in the budget we're trying to protect as well, because we do realize as we get into larger classes and we have to maintain growth, you also have to put resources into ensuring that the quality of the education is maintained, and that we don't allow it to deteriorate, and don't allow our students to sort of to lose faith in the university and drop out just because nobody was there to help them when they needed it. So thanks for the point, but we're trying to do that in the budget as well.
Right. Excuse me. I think I noticed $8 million in the budget devoted to utilities, and I'm just wondering if there's any prospect of reducing that through new energy conservation initiatives. Okay,
you want to joke. I always say that we have enough hot air around here. We shouldn't need any coal or electric. But that's bad. Doug, we are always trying to be environmentally friendly. Duncan, would you like to talk about some of our efforts at keeping the fuel costs down?
Well, we're always looking for opportunities. We have in each of the last 4 years reduced our energy consumption on a sort of degree day adjusted basis by 1% per year. But we're always looking for opportunities, and if anybody in the community has a good idea about how we could do it further, we're open for business. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And those ideas are big, small, whatever ideas you have. People have come up and suggested things. We will act on them as much as we can. If there are no more questions, then I think we all should go back to work. Thank you very much, and thank you, Duncan.